So once again, another box from overseas has turned up with car parts. Right, let's get straight into business. This is a CAE short shifter for my Mazda MX-5 NB tracked car. Why have I gone with the short shifter and why this specific one? Well, let me tell you a story. Particularly 5th and 6th gear, they're quite hard to hit. When you're loaded up, 300-ish horsepower, going through a fast corner, the drivetrain's all loaded up, you go from 4th, you go to hit 5th, there's reverse lock, there's the reverse gate, and you've got no man's land. You can't get the thing into gear. You come back out, you try and hit 5th again. Finally, yes, there's 5th. You're trundling along, it's 240 k's an hour. You go to hit 6th, ah man, I missed it. There's 6th, finally got it. I'm sick of that thing happening to me. Now, look, to be fair, 3rd to 4th, usually not a problem. It's a straight line. 2nd to 3rd, also usually not a problem. 4th to 5th, sometimes you hit 3rd. That's really bad. 4th to 5th, sometimes you get no man's land, kind of where reverse is. That's annoying, hurts your lap, doesn't usually cause any dramas. 5th to 6th, usually okay, but man, when you go from 5th to 6th and you end up in that sort of reverse gate, oh, so annoying. My hope is this will solve it. Now, there are other short shifters on the market, from Miata Roadster, Chinese crap. There's a few other fancy brands that kind of look like this, like the IRP one, and there's a dude in America, G Racing, I think. A few brands out there. None of them have a reverse lockout. That's kind of the main reason why I've gone and looked at this CAE unit. The reverse lockout just seems like something that'll save me, keep me in gears that I want to use on the track, and keep reverse for only in the pits and driving around slowly. I don't know if it'll actually improve the shifting experience. I'm not really sure that other short shifters make that shifting better in terms of mechanical sympathy. I really need to keep the gearbox alive and make my shifts clean and explicit. I don't need wavery, concerning shifts that involve crunchy gearboxes and things. Definitely avoiding reverse is going to be helpful, hence why I've given this thing a go. I paid for a full price for it, bought it from, it comes from Germany, I think. I'll put the prices up over here or somewhere. But yeah, it was quick to get here. It took, I don't know, maybe less than a week. Very quick to come from overseas. So what do we get? We get a shifter. We get a shift knob. There are a few options, actually quite a few options on what shift knob to get. I just went with, I think, the standard white Delrin that comes with it. On face value, it feels kind of small, particularly compared to what I have in the car. I guess we'll see how we go. There is a threaded, yeah, it is threaded, so there is provision for aftermarket knobs if I want to run one. We'll see what happens there. There is a lower, or actually, I guess it's the upper for the MX-5, an upper dust boot cover thing to go between the trans tunnel and the shifter. Now, it's quite a unique shifter. It doesn't kind of only replace the shifter mechanism, but quite a component within the turret, or the shift turret that attaches to the gearbox. So the boot changes quite significantly. Got a bag of goodies, some bolts, some couple of bottles or some sort of juice in there. Maybe one's for Loctite and one's for some lube. Not exactly sure. And then a little paper bag with some goodies, which are kind of cute, including CAE branded lollies. Absent thing here is instructions, so I don't know if the website has those. I'll have to go and have a squiz on my phone quickly. But yeah, I don't see any physical instructions. Now, the shifter itself is quite interesting in the way it's designed. It doesn't just replace the shifter mechanism like a lot of the other short shifters do. It actually replaces quite a component of the transmission turret or shift turret, which is one of the reasons why it's a little bit more clunky looking. It is just generally a bit more bulky than any other shifter, and to be fair, that gives it a real race car look, makes it kind of look cool, but it does also make it look a bit more clunky and cumbersome. You got this big sort of mechanism back here with the spring and the reverse lockout stuff that all adds to that raciness, but it also it's a certain aesthetic. You have to kind of like it. Personally, maybe it's a bit excessive for me, but I'm very much a function over form guy, so however it looks, I don't care. If I change gears and it does the job, then I'm happy. That's the shifter. It should go in well, it should go in easy. That's enough waffling. Let's get it in the car. Okie dokie, you can't see me, but that's okay. At least you can see the shifter. Obviously, step one, remove the old stuff. No, that's not my shift knob. It's just a cover. I've got the white Delrin shift knob, and if we pop this up, that's their old shifter out. Now, typically, most short shifters would bolt in here on top of the shift turret. This CAE unit, now I've slightly disassembled it because that's what you need to do to reassemble. This unit actually comes with a replacement for this, I guess, upper piece of the turret here. There's 4 bolts to remove this piece. 2 of them are accessible directly from here. 2 of them are just under the lip of the, I guess, the hole in the shifter, well, trans tunnel here. So they are hard to get to. You can probably loosen your PPFs to give yourself some wobble room and lower the transmission a little bit. Or potentially you can use a thin socket, a thin spanner, and just get through it from up above. I will see how I go, and I'll keep you updated. Alright, the answer is certainly yes, lower the transmission. Could not get the bolt out. It was literally hitting the trans tunnel before it was coming free from the gearbox. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, both of these front bolts are loose. Okay, first front one is out. The second front one's a little bit more troublesome because it's right on the hole that's touching the trans tunnel, but it is out. It's dropped down, but that's fine. I can get that later. All right, now if we lift this away, that's your, I guess, your sort of shifter turret upper section. And then there is actually a gasket, sort of paper-ish gasket there. I'm pretty sure we remove that, give it all a bit of a wipe down. So we now need to install this piece in place of where this piece used to live. And effectively it's supposed to be a straight swap. Looks like it is. That's great. Now the kit comes with this stuff, and the instructions, which I found on their website, say apply the green sealant. Now this doesn't say sealant on it. I don't read German, but I'm assuming this is the stuff because it's green. So I'll put a small smear on here, or maybe on there. I don't know. Maybe on there. And then we'll bolt this guy down. It comes with 2 different sets of bolts. You've got big M8, I assume they are M8, Allen bolts, and then there's some M8 hex head bolts. The Allen head bolts go at the back because you actually can get an Allen key on there, and the hex ones go at the front because you can't get an Allen into those bolts at the front that are a little less accessible. Okay, I put some of the gloop in here. I don't know if it's kind of like a silicon sealant. It's very green, very fluorescent. I assume that's what it is. It's kind of an RTV-esque product. And it comes in a nice little kind of shampoo-style pump bottle. Sort of thing you'd get if you're on a holiday, vacation, and you stayed at a hotel, and they come with the little mini shampoo bottles. So anyway, just put a small amount around this. I don't think I need a lot here. In fact, I don't want a lot here, because the more you put there, the harder it is to get off later. And there isn't it's not like there's a heap of oil coming out of this turret. This isn't swimming in oil up here. So anyway, that's enough. Now, I'm pretty sure we want to put these 2 bolts in first before we try and get that in. Looks like it'll be troublesome to get it in there afterwards, so let's drop those in, sneak this in under there, and then line those bolts up, and she drops down pretty tidy. I'll just try and get those started. But I think first I'll try and get these back ones started because they're more accessible. These two Allens come with little, I guess what you'd call like locking washers as well. So drop those in. Try not to lose the washers. So let's just get these loosely tightened so that, you know, things don't move around. There we go. And the front ones I'm going to have to do by hand. I can appreciate that you cannot see a single thing right now. Just imagine. Just listen to my voice and it will tell you what's going on. I'm doing up a bolt. Okay, they're all done up by hand. Let's see if we can get leather. Now these are not 12. So the factory turret bolts are a 12 mil. These new ones are not. So I guess 13. I wouldn't assume an imperial head on a metric thread, so we'll go and get a 13 mil. Now, you know me, I'm terrible with doing things to the book, and you know, that includes applying torque specs. But thankfully the instructions don't explicitly say the torque rating to apply on these bolts. So I'm using the old tight as your arms can do kind of trick. That seems safe. Now these back ones, a little bit more accessible. Tight as a tiger. I'm going to wipe up a bit of the excess sealant on the outside there. Turret lower part of the job done. That's also probably the hardest part. I can bolt the PPF back together and lift the trans back up that extra few millimeters and get onto the top part of the install. Okay, so next up is this rubber boot bad boy. There's a logo here. Despite that, it goes the other way around. It goes this way. It tapers downward. There's also actually a foam seal here. It does so because the shifter, the lower turret that it seals on is kind of sunken in. So this seals around that. So I'll just sort of shimmy the gasket parts and pieces down. And we're just going to line up the holes with the factory holes. It comes with new M6 bolts. Kind of unnecessary. You could use the factory ones. I guess the ones that are supplied are a little bit cuter, shall we say. So this part of the process is obviously very straightforward. 4 bolts, just get them all started by hand or loosely, whatever. And then once they're all lined up, make sure it feels like it's in the right spot, push the gasket down and then tighten up. Next up is the actual shifter. Now, one notable difference between this one and this factory one is the factory comes with that lower bushing, kind of a nylon bushing, whereas this aftermarket unit does not run a bushing. That's explicitly part of the way they do their thing. So there's no bushing on here, it's kind of metal on metal. I don't know why they do that or how that works. I guess they've decided that's the best way to make this whole mechanism work. I'm not going to question them. I do find it fascinating. It's one of the few shifters out there that does so for the MX-5. They do say lube this a little bit. One other thing that I really like is there's some little dowels on this unit here, one here, one here. I'll try and get a close-up for you there of said dowels. There you go. One there and one there. And they key onto this turret. So just without even putting bolts in, just lowering this thing into place, it's like really snug. No bolts, and already that's just keyed perfectly. So bodes well for the unit. Now, that said, let's get some lube on here and get the bolts in. The bolts that it comes with are again a seemingly M6 hex, and they come with the little locking washers. So I'm going to make sure we put all those together. There are 5 bolts that go in. Pretty straightforward stuff. Oh, and by the way, again, green goo around here to seal onto here. Okay, we've got shmoo on here, green goo there. Now, I was just thinking about what the green goo is really for. It's probably more so to keep dust out than it is to keep oils and gloop in. Just keeping dust out would be more than logical because, yeah, as I say, it's a kind of a dry shifter up here. We're not full of lube, particularly the NB gearboxes, unlike the earlier 5-speeds where they do have oil in the shifter turret. These ones effectively don't. Now we'll just get all of our M6 bolts started. And don't forget the locking horseshoes. Now I'll do a bit of a star pattern kind of thing here. And I also won't wrench down too tight on them. I don't need these to be crazy tight. I just need them to be snug enough. Now the last thing we need to do to complete the install is install our shift knob. So let me shimmy the camera up because you can't see where it's going to go. And then we'll plonk it on. So interestingly, they do offer a thread. I don't know what pitch this is. I'll have to Google it and I'll put it here somewhere for you. But then their actual knob that comes with the kit is affixed with a bolt through the top. So it seems to just sit on here. Oh no, it does thread on. Okay, I'm crazy. So that's nice. And then we've still got the bolt to kind of keep it from coming loose. And what size? Not that size. This size? Yes. So it's the same as the ones that hold the shifter turret down. So we can tighten that up. You know what that means. Physical install done. Oh man, already going over here and then not having to hit reverse. Like I can shove it across as hard as I want, straight into 6th, straight into 5th. Whereas if you go like this, pull up, bam, now you can get reverse. Oh, that's delicious. One thing to add, the instructions do talk about how to trim your console, if you had one. I don't. To make it fit around the shifter. As far as I'm aware, it can kind of look, well, you can make it fit, but there's some work involved. So now while the physical install is done, there's one last thing we need to do, and that is setting, I guess what you call like endpoint adjustments. Effectively, the little grub screws down here need to be set for the 1st and 2nd, 3rd and 4th, 5th and 6th, and reverse. To do so, we put the car or the shifter into gear, and then just use the supplied Allen key to adjust these endpoints until there's about 0.5 millimeter of clearance between the stop and the little grub screw. Seems pretty straightforward. For the 3rd and 4th, because there's no grub screw, they actually use a spring on this shifter. So we just loosen off this guy here, and it's kind of got a slider to adjust that center position. So that's neat and tidy. And for reverse, essentially it's the same thing. We just have to pull up on our lockout, put it into reverse, and then we just check that we've got the appropriate amount of space, which is that 0.5 millimeter between the stop and the pin. Pretty straightforward, I think. I'll do that now. Oh yes, and I'm going to use a torch to get a very good eye on these grub screws. Adjustments done. Now one thing I did notice is this knob isn't as bad as I thought it was. I initially thought it was too small, but it's not too, I don't know, it feels fine. I guess I'll see once driving if it actually feels fine with gloves on when you're out there, or if I do want to swap to, I guess, the one I had before or something else. I guess we'll worry about that later, but job done. It's direct. I can still feel that notch in the gearbox, which is probably the sad synchros. But what it means now is that at least I'm not going to hit reverse. And because you've got those little dowel grub screws that lock the position of the shifter, when you move it to a set spot, you're always right on the gate. It means that you'll get much more precise, accurate shifts. This is exactly what I need to keep this gearbox alive and to drive quickly and under drivetrain load. It's just going to make my life so much better. Also, avoiding reverse just is such a dream. Bam, straight to sixth. I cannot go into reverse no matter how hard I try. Straight to sixth. It feels very direct. It does feel very precise. Obviously, this is just sitting in the car. It's not actually driving it. So the proof is obviously in that pudding. So time to get it out on track and see how she goes. One thing to add, obviously, well, I think it's obvious, this is very much a kind of serious piece of kit, and it's very track oriented. It doesn't really make a lot of sense for a road car. It's bulky, it requires modification to the console, it's a considerable cost, and let's be honest, it's probably going to be quite noisy in a normal road car. In this car, I got so many noises that this is just going to blend in with all the other ones. So take it from me, this is seemingly perfect for my needs. I'm not telling you it's right for you. I'm also not being paid to tell you it's right for you. I didn't get paid at all to do this. It actually cost me like a lot of money to buy this thing. So please watch my video and like it and all that stuff, because I got to pay for this thing. This is the second session out. So far, all things have been going well. Still getting used to the shifter. It's good, it's functional. I do need to be gingerly with the careful with the clutch. If I don't really fully depress it, because the shifts are so short, it seems to have a bit of a habit of crunching gears a little bit, so crunching synchros. So got to be careful there, but otherwise it's performing well. I'm staying in the gates I want, or in the gears I want. I'm not hitting or getting stuck in, say for example, getting stuck in the reverse gate when I hit fifth. No sixth gear around here at Winton, only hitting fifth, but even so, working absolutely fantastic. And so that is the shifter. What can I say? It's pretty amazing. Let's summarize. So the kit came fairly well packaged. It was, look, to be honest, packaged to definitely go across the world. It's not glamorous packaging, but it's very snug and tidy. The kit comes very complete. You've got all the bolts you need to bolt it directly up to the car, including more than you need, to be frank. It comes with the sealant, it comes with some Loctite, it comes with a lot more than what you would get on a lot of other gear. It is a quite complete and comprehensive unit. The installation process is a little more difficult than most other short shifters, just because you've got to replace that turret component, which does require lowering the gearbox a little bit. It's a little bit fiddly, but nothing disastrously impossible. The installation is, otherwise fairly straightforward. The hardware that it comes with is all very high quality, and then obviously the aluminium machining of the unit itself is kind of top notch. I opted for the raw alloy unit. You can get them anodized, it costs extra. I am tight and I don't want to spend that much, so I went with raw alloy. That said, for me, I'm not living in salty areas where there's snow. I don't live where there's a lot of beach or anything, so I'm not in places that'll really corrode the unit, and I'm in a fairly clean environment, a fairly clean car, so I'm not going to get too many grubby hands on it, which means it won't get too tarnished and dirty and need attention. It is a high maintenance thing, but then so is this whole car. You do need to kind of lubricate and keep the thing clean so that it, I guess, functions as best as it can. But otherwise, the actual function of the shifter is pretty straightforward and pretty phenomenal. Very direct. The gate locks, or the grub screws that set the shift positions, just mean you're always going straight into a gate. You're never missing a gear, at least in theory. And then that reverse lockout is just a dream for me. So really loving that opportunity to have a shifter that hopefully, look, to be honest, it's kind of like insurance, and it's saving the gearbox, saving the car from me more than anything. So yeah, if I have to spend this money to keep the gearbox alive, that's better than having to replace an entire gearbox, which is many more monies. Speaking of money, I'll just remind you, not sponsored. I pay for this unit myself. I just went on their website, sent them the money, they sent me the shifter. They don't know who I am. I didn't know who they were before I bought it. If you want to buy one, the link is down below in the description-y thing. I'll link you to this particular one that I bought, but they've got shifters for heaps of MX-5s, NA, NB, NC, not sure about ND, 5-speed, 6-speed, also BMW gearbox if you've got a Beamer swap in your MX-5, plus heaps of other cars, not just MX-5s, heaps of other cars. So if you've got a car and you need a shifter, have a look. To be frank, it's quite an aggressive shifter. It's in a race car sort of style shifter. It's clunky, it requires modification to the console. I'm probably assuming it's going to be pretty noisy. So if you want one, you probably race car-y type stuff. Not so sure how it would fare on the street. But hey, up to you. As I say, I'm not telling you what to do, not sponsored. I guess last thing is, didn't come with instructions, but I did print some out off the website. They're very clear, very good, well written, English and German. The English version have a few tiny little translation issues, but nothing that doesn't stop you from doing the job. Pictures are great, very clear. Overall, thoroughly impressed. I think that's it. I think I've covered everything. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.